Hey everybody, it's Jim here, and before we get into today's podcast, I want to apologize because there's going to actually be cutting up in this one because of camera issues, as you might have assumed. I'm still working on those, but we powered through it, so apologize for that. Enjoy the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Audiomo podcast. I am joined again by my co-host Dave Nelson. We're going to be talking about the Harley Benton Mosrite copies because Dave also picked up one of those. How are you doing tonight, Dave?
Oh, doing pretty good. It's been... Yeah, it's busy as usual, right? It's always the same shit.
It's always the same stuff until your toddler gets a bead lodged in her nasal cavity when everyone in the world is saying, why the hell are you doing that? And then all hell breaks loose. Yeah, just normal, calm day. But thinking of positive things here. How's things with Nora? She good?
She's doing good, yeah. Actually, finally adjusting to daycare after what feels like one of the longest months of my life. But today was like, I thought daycare was off for Good Friday, and I was like, 3-day weekend. She's going to go back Monday and she's going to lose it, but actually today was like the best day she's had so far. So she lost it when I dropped her off, but within a minute, she had cooled down. She's playing with the kids, doing the good stuff, getting social and whatnot. And, feels like there's a little bit of a light at the end of the, I'm sure you've experienced this before when you drop your kid off somewhere and they flip out and you feel like a monster. And, maybe we're getting past that a little bit.
Eventually it gets to the point where you drop them off and they do that and you feel like they're the monster. But you have a little ways to go before we get there. Before we bore everybody with the fatherly talk, I did pick up the modern regular scale version of the Harley Benton MR Modern. I did my review on it. I had my thoughts. We'll get into those in a second. But Dave, which one did you pick?
I ended up grabbing the Baritone, mostly because I've been on the hunt for a decently priced Baritone for a while that I thought was going to kind of hit the right specs. And, regardless on kind of like my feelings about the Harley, but I think this one had the right specs for me to go, you know what, I'm going to give a Baritone a shot. And I'm kind of sucker for that sort of like weird kind of retro look. And it worked out nicely, I think. I think that I don't think I ever would have bought a Mosrite. But like this is just such an interesting combo to me to like have this like retro look with the Baritone thing. I don't know, and it's since I'm using it for like in a metal context, it's kind of weird, but I think it's cool.
I actually think it's like super fitting for that because it's really a lot of people associate those guitars with surf because of the Ventures and stuff like that. But
yeah,
really. The Ramones played Mosrites, and a lot of punk bands played them too because for a long time they weren't really worth anything. So a lot of people that didn't have a big budget, they would use those, and you get some gnarly distortion and gain out of them. And I actually think that that's kind of a cool premise to make the baritone version of a guitar like that, because then it kind of leads itself into somebody like you who wouldn't necessarily have thought to buy one of those, but you make it a baritone, and all of a sudden this funky, futuristic looking old guitar is something that you find yourself kind of attracted to, and I think that's pretty cool. I wanted to ask you, because you've never played a Fender Jazzmaster, to my understanding, have you?
No. Yep. No.
How do you feel with the body? Not necessarily the scale length of the guitar, but like the size and the bulk of the body. Does it feel comfortable to you?
It's bulky. It's definitely a heavy boy. And normally that would bother me, but I think because it's the baritone and it's so big, there's something in my brain that's like it's supposed to be really big, so in like when I'm flying way down here to go play low notes and stuff, I maybe it like, I don't know, it'd be like driving a Mustang or something and being like, yeah, the ass end kicks out on me and complaining about it. It's like that's the point of it, right? Like it's supposed to have a bunch of power in the back end, and I kind of feel like it's sort of the same way. I don't really feel the offset at all, but it's not a wild offset, but like as far as the heft goes, I thought it was going to bother me more when I first picked it up. I was like, oh man, this is like, it feels like, a Les Paul again. But then when you start kind of getting into it and, it felt like it's supposed to feel that way,
Yeah. I couldn't figure out why the guitar felt so familiar to me, and I bring up the Jazzmaster because about 20 minutes after playing it, I was just like, this guitar is my Jazzmaster. As far as like sure. the weight of it, the size of it, how far away, because it is a full Fender scaling 25.5 on the regular models. So for me, like I felt at home in it, but I was also like, oh God, this is like the guitar I kind of play the least out of all of the offsets. I always go to the Mustang or the Jaguar.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, this will be interesting. But I mean, I was really, I'm kind of disappointed. There's nothing we could do about this. And the other reason that I'm not going to make the biggest fuss is because you and I both know the one thing we say about Harley Benton guitars. We love that they come so specced out. We love that, they offer them at very reasonable prices with all of those features on them. I love the frets on this guitar. It's great. It's a good neck. But the pickups, I wish it came with the stock P90s instead of these kind of hybrids. However, with that being said, I'm not so sure I would have even liked those at this point. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I'm like, because at first I don't totally was with you, where it's sort of like maybe the humbuckers are a weird choice, but I think that I don't know. I think they know. They obviously they're specking. They're putting all the money into the things that are impossible to replace it without essentially buying a new guitar, right? Like I'm not gonna put I'm gonna put a new neck or stainless steel frets on a guitar that doesn't have it, right? Like I might as well just buy a guitar that does. But like pickups, that's an easy job to do. So like they might as well give me shit pickups and they know I'm going to rip them out. But at the same, yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like if the P90s were in there, like the chances that the P90s are any good, although that being said, I did have a Harley Benton Les Paul that had P90s in it and they were fine. I didn't feel as strongly about them as I do about these humbuckers, which, yeah, I mean, you're saying it nicer than I would, but they're bad. They're really bad. I don't know. I think you're right. I probably would have replaced P90s, but maybe I would have gone longer before I replaced them than I would with these. These are terrible.
So are you thinking about replacing them with anything? I know DiMarzio's make pickups that will drop right in, because if you put in traditional P90s into this guitar, they'll fit, but you're going to have to drill in the holes because those are mounted in towards the middle of the pickup, whereas these kind of hybrid humbucking P90 pickups, they're on the edges of them. The DiMarzio's will drop right in, and those would probably be a gigantic improvement.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I haven't done enough research on pickups that fit this particular space because this is a weird one. I don't think I really know of any other guitars that do the humbucking P90s. Usually it's the other way around where it's like you get so it's a little bit strange. I don't really know about all my options. At first I was like, oh, I'll just toss regular P90s in it. Like that would be cool, but it's kind of not what I really want the guitar to sound like. So I think I need to find something that will, sort of match that aesthetic and the tone I'm going for, which, I mean, if anything, I think a DiMarzio would definitely be a good starting point, because really what you're looking for is like that pre-scooped, really tight low end, lots of like springy top ends so you can get that super genty, kind of chuggy, nice stuff. And that's kind of the antithesis of a P90, really, So I don't know. On the one hand, the P90 would be cool to do, and it would definitely fit the look of the guitar, but yeah, I mean, for something that's definitely not going on the road with me, that's just going to be in the studio, to be like, hey, it'd be cool to have this, to try out for some stuff. I think a humbucker is going to be the way to go for sure.
Yeah, you don't have many options. I think it's like them, Guitar Fetish, and one other brand that I had never heard of before, and then the actual Artec ones, which are the brand that Harley Benton used on this model. They sell for $40 a set, Dave, if you want to have a second one for a different kind of guitar project going into the future.
Why do you think they did that then with so few? I mean, I just don't really get, I guess I just don't get why. I mean, maybe it must have been like a routing thing, like it's easier for them to have the one set of routing patterns for the CNCs or something. I don't know. It seems like a strange choice to me to do. Although maybe that would be it, right? That they're like, hey, if we just do one set, then we don't have to change over the mills when we do the bodies, right? I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess the other reason is if you're the brand Artec, maybe you gave them an even better deal on buying a bunch of them, because, it's just like, how many other people make those style of pickups? Like you said, I'm used to seeing humbucker-sized P90s. I'm not used to seeing P90-sized humbuckers. So this was kind of interesting for me from the offset here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if you're saying $40 a pair, there's no way Harley Benton's paying that for them. I mean, I just wonder, it seems like such a strange choice when everything else about it is actually modern. to do, that with the pickups. Like, and even knowing that I think people are primarily buying them and modding them, right? Like, so then to give them so few options of ways to mod it is kind of a weird choice. But, it's whatever. It's usable for the moment. And we've talked about this before. Like, obviously, good pickups make a big difference. But, like, if you have the time and the ability to really sit down and mess with your tone, like, you can get past it, Like I said, it is usable when it's in single coil mode.
And here's the other interesting food for thought here. Because what did that thing cost you shipped? Like $400?
Yeah, a little less, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so when the Squier Baritone Cabronita came out, I picked up one of those, a B stock for I think $380, but I think really if you buy one new, it's like $450 plus tax. That guitar had the opposite problem that this guitar did. As far as I thought the pickups on that guitar were really good, but the hardware was horribly cheap, and I felt like, especially because the gauge of string is so big, it's like inexcusable to have like that low quality of hardware on something like that, because obviously it's just like a bass guitar. You need a high mass bridge, you need something that's really, really sturdy in order to have the guitar reliably stay in tune. So for me, it was like, it's like you're never going to get all the way in this kind of price range with anything. So it's either you're going to go the Squier / Fender route and be like, okay, maybe I have pickups that do sound better, because I thought those pickups really did sound good in that baritone, but the rest of it left me something to be desired. Whereas the Harley Benton, you get the locking Wilkinson tuners, you get the Wilkinson bridge, and I mean, you just can't have it all. But at this price, can you really complain?
No, and I mean, yeah, like we've said, plenty of times before, it's the one place I'm totally fine with them skimping, because I can fix it, and I sort of expect to at this particular price point, I mean, even on a guitar where, like a PRS, where I'm buying an SE, they're way more expensive. Like, I'm okay with the fact that I'm going to change the pickups. I don't love it, but it's fine, and at this price point, like sub $400, like I really don't care that I have to change the pickups, Speaking of the tuning stability though, I'm curious, does yours on the non-baritone fight you at all?
Yes.
Yeah. I was curious if it was just the baritone, right? It's not too bad. I just find it like a little bit more difficult to get it to where it needs to be than I do with any other guitars that I have. And I thought it was kind of a combo of the Wilkinson. It feels kind of like a cheap nut to me too, and then just the scale length. But I was curious if you had the same issue with the non-baritone model.
No, you got to really dial in that vibrato system. That's what needs to be done. I didn't do that, dude. That was you know what? I could tangent on this for a second. That was the least fun demo I've ever done in my entire life, by far. And it was the first time when I was doing YouTube, and I had a new guitar, and I was just like, I loathed every second of it, because everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Before we started this podcast tonight, it took me 15 minutes to get a camera reliably set up so I could start doing it. This guitar shows up at 7 p.m. on Friday night. And I'm like, well, shit. I'm like, that's the worst possible time for it to show up, because I like to do everything through the amp. So I know that right now we got to eat dinner, and then after dinner it's a shower, and then it's bedtime. And I have to pray that, my wife can keep my kid happy so that there's no like screaming at each other. Because she's just at that age where simple things like, say, brush your teeth end up being World War III, and you can't record guitars doing that. So I'm like frantically going through trying to record this demo. And then, like, I start to hear shit hit the fan in the other room. I look over at Pro Tools. Pro Tools is running. The camera is no longer recording in OBS. It's off. So everything I had done, I was like, I only needed 2 more riffs. Gone. Like, great. So I go to bed, and I plug it into the Neural DSP, the Soldano. I think I think I actually made the pickup sound worse by choosing that specific plugin. I really do.
I thought it sounded fine. I mean, I was actually really surprised that the Optimus sounded so great. through the clean on the Soldano. It was very surprising.
That was the surprising part, but the actual cleans themselves, and I went to like my go-to clean sound on the Soldano. I have that one picked out for a reason. I actually love the way it sounds with Fenders. I just felt like it was just such a flubby disaster. I'm sitting there with my headphones. I'm recording with my phone. I can't see what I'm doing. I'm like rushing through it. I didn't finish that video until 3 a.m. and I posted it at 8 a.m. So it was just like, I was like, oh my God.
I mean, to be fair though, it's an accurate representation of how that guitar sounds. And you know, we're spending a lot of time talking about the pickups, when I will say the fit and finish of the guitar is great. I think the frets are fantastic. The neck is like that perfect in between of a classic and a modern style neck. I think that the tuners are fantastic. It looks good. I didn't have any quality control issues with mine at all. And everything else about the guitar is great. It's just those pickups are just really dog shit.
Yeah, no, I honestly, you caught me red-handed here. I knew that you hated him, so I wanted to just bring it up because you're funny. Yeah. But I mean, I thought I was pretty, fair with my analysis as well when I was doing it, because I thought the same thing. I was like, this thing's awesome. I'm like, because where else are you going to get this? And the other thing is like the Dan Electros. It's not like those are coming with antiquities. It's not like they're coming with amazing hardware or anything like that. No, those have always just kind of had a feel to them.
They feel like toys. Every Dan Electro I've felt has kind of felt like a toy.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that.
Yeah.
They're not for me. And you can get good sounds out of almost, and the other thing is you can get good sounds out of almost anything at this point. But like I just never vibe with the Dan Electros. So for me, the Harley Benton feels a lot better. It's just, it was just so much went wrong with that. And then like the pickups and then all this, and then UPS, like they repackaged it and didn't seal the box. So the thing has a nice divot in the back of the headstock. So yeah, so it's not like I was selling it anyway, but now if I was, I'd eat even more. So I just thought it was funny. I thought it was the first time that both of us have bought the same guitar from Harley Benton at the same time. Well, technically yours is a baritone. So we wanted to do something together here. Now, we have kind of already established that we would like to make something original, but I would like to leave some room for, I don't know, recommendations, let's say, from anybody who watches this. What would be a good idea for us to do here? Because obviously, I was thinking of it like this. If I just say, all right, Dave, you lay down a rhythm track, okay? You're going to do what you did, because he sent me about a 1-minute demo, okay? And it was great. But that's what you're going to do. It's going to be a kind of in your wheelhouse thing that's going to be like, all right, well, then I'm just going to sit on top of it. It's not so much of a collaboration. So, like,
sure.
Should we pick, like, a strange genre and try and do something? Should we pick a key? Should we pick a progression? Should we pick something or, like, some sort of challenge that we have to, like, give ourselves to do this? I don't know. I want to make it so it's, like, a little bit more, interactive, so to speak, between the two of us. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I mean, I had fun doing the demo thing, so I'm good either way. But yeah, if you want to, if it would be cool to maybe try something a little bit different, because it definitely immediately went to exactly where I was going to go with a baritone.
But that's why I laughed. But the other thing was when I got the Squier into the baritone, I thought I was going to go right where you went too. I was like, oh, it's a baritone. I'd never had a baritone before that, and I was like, I'm just gonna crank up the gain and I'm gonna have a shit ton of fun doing all that. I ended up just playing it clean. Like for 90% of the time, I thought it just had such a complexity to the tone because of the lower tuning and all this. It's just like you can hit these like different soundscapes that you don't normally achieve. So I think it's much more capable, not just a Harley Benton, but a baritone guitar in general, of contributing to a lot of different styles of music. I know Mark Lettieri, who's a fantastic player, plays for Snarky Puppy. He's kind of like a funk guy, but all that. Like he plays a few Paul Reed Smith baritones. And it's freaking cool, dude. Really, really cool. So I'd like to be able to, we don't have to play all clean like what I would do. But we also don't have to play all heavy like what you would do. We could find something in between. So if anybody has any recommendations or something that you would like to hear us try and debauch or, just ruin, let us know in the comments down below. That would be something that we'd be totally open to in the future. I'm sorry. I'm thinking about Bob, and I'm thinking about Bob reading that and being like, play a country song. But Bob probably was so turned off by the initial demo because he's an older guy and he knows what the real Mosrite sounded like. He's probably like, I'm never clicking another video where he's talking about that guitar ever again. So I don't think we're gonna get a country music request per se.
I don't think my fingers would work doing country. I think my hand just shut off. So we might have to go anything but country. I don't even think I could pretend to do country well, is all I'm saying.
So we were talking about the pickups in the Harley Benton, and that's all fine and well, right?
Yeah.
Did you watch the video I made where I compared the Fender Japan, the Harley Benton Telecaster, and the Fender Custom Shop?
If I did, it might have been the day it came out, and I don't really remember that well.
Okay.
So,
well, no, it's not a big deal. I reference it because I did it blind, so nobody knew what guitar was which. And I think it was like 60% of the people, if I had to rough ballpark this, preferred the Harley Benton over the other two guitars because I don't know, it sounds the most modern to me, and I think that a lot of younger people especially hear that and they are like, oh, that sounds kind of like the tone that I would ideally want here. But
sure.
The point of it was, and what I wanted to talk to you about, what makes an expensive guitar worth it then? Because some of the people are leaving comments, and I feel like this is it's pretty valid to an extent. Why would you have a $4,200 Fender Custom Shop guitar if, when you're doing a blind comparison between that and a $200 Harley Benton that you put $50 pickups into, that like both of them sound good? Like, what is the point? What is the purpose? What value do you see in having like one or two like nicer guitars?
Well, I think we've talked about this a few times, that it's, at the end of the day, I can make a guitar sound pretty much any way I want it to, regardless of what it sounds like plugged in, right? And most of the work of an expensive guitar is to make you feel better while you're playing it, whether that be through comfort, or whether it be through the way it's set up, or whether it be how it inspires you to play differently when you pick it up, right? So while, yeah, I think, tone is one thing, and a blind comparison of tone between guitars is a cool way to sort of prove that, like, there are some places the money goes more effectively than others. What it can't do is tell you, like, which one did you play better, which one felt better to you while you were playing it, which one got out of your way quicker, which one, made you think of a song the second you put it in your lap and started playing it, right? Like, and to me, there's definitely diminishing returns there for sure, right? But you put a expensive guitar next to a cheap guitar, and even before the tone, right? Like, the real question is, like, how do you play it, and how does it play you? Ooh, that was a little introspective,
Yeah, I see what you did there. That was a lot deeper than I had anticipated for you to end that little tangent there. But, oh man, so yeah, I'm with you on that, and it really does come down to diminishing returns. And the other thing that I've learned this, the hard way a few times here, and most recently with the two Jaguars that I've had, the Custom Shop, and then the super high-end production one, the 60th anniversary. Just because a guitar is expensive, or just because a guitar is made in America, that doesn't necessarily mean you will bond or like that guitar whatsoever. I mean, so it's like, I don't like blanket statements in this category, but I feel like that a lot of people that have a lot of like pride, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I think of it like people that race cars, right? Like in the streets and stuff like that. Like, they'll get the cheap a Honda or a GTI or something like that that's used and all. It looks like a piece of shit, right? But they'll modify it so it's faster than like a stock Porsche or something like that in a straight line. But then they're like, oh, well, then what you did is stupid. Like, you're dumb. You could have just done what I did. And it's just like they look down on anybody who, like, kind of spends the money, and maybe they just have a different taste to them. Whereas I see the argument from both sides. I don't know, like, it's tough, man. It's really tough, especially when, money is, it's a tough subject for a lot of people right now because, everything seemingly getting exponentially more expensive. And you look at, the dream of what? Having a quality American-made Gibson Les Paul, Paul Reed Smith guitar, well, now Paul Reed Smith guitar, like, that seemed a lot more attainable. At least, maybe it wasn't with the inflation, how it would have corrected back then. But like, it just felt like it was more attainable, and that it wasn't be like as big of a deal then as it is now. Like now, like a major purchase is like, it's like you gotta really mull it over a lot more so. And I don't know. I think that I'm in a different position because I move so many things, and everything pays for itself in its own little ecosystem. Yeah. But if I wasn't doing that, I don't know if I could justify it at this point.
So a couple things there. I think one, I struggle a little bit with the dream of owning whatever, right? Like an American Gibson, like what on the, I feel like it's important to really think critically about like why that's the goal, like, and to kind of go back to, sort of the expensive versus cheap sort of thing. Like, I feel like Martin's a good example of this to me, where I've played like really expensive Martins that play like shit, and I played really cheap Martins that play fantastic, as well as I played really cheap Martins that play awful and really expensive ones that also play great, right? And to me, that's kind of proof of, I think, Martin's quality control, which is sort of something I've always had an issue with them about. But I think it also proves the point on both ends that if you have a cheap guitar that plays fantastic, who cares what it sounds like if you can make it sound the way that you want and you enjoy playing it. Just the same as if you have a really expensive guitar that you enjoy, it can sound like shit and it's fine, right? You enjoy playing it, or it sounds amazing and you still enjoy playing it, right? Like the kind of concept of sort of going like, oh, I need an American Les Paul, like just sort of seems like I don't think that there's any, I don't know, I guess there should be some sort of standard that comes along with that. And I mean, I think that, to some extent there is, right? But you could still get an American Les Paul that plays like shit, right? Like, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's like, who cares what money you spent on it? Who cares how it sounds? If it sounds well to you and it plays good to you, like, whatever. And the rest of it's your budget, basically, right?
Yeah, and I think I said that because I really believe like I'm kind of like that even though I'm only a few years older than you, I feel like I was like that last part of that generation where it was one of those things where when you were going out and playing live, like that was like a selling point because rock and all that stuff was still a big deal, and like going out and seeing it live, like it was really prevalent. And not that it's not now, it's just it's changed and the landscape has changed, and there weren't as many competitors out there that people not only knew about but were accessible in the United States. Before the internet came around, getting like some of these rare Japanese guitars, you couldn't find a damn thing about it. All you would hear is like, oh, it's made in Japan, it looks weird, it looks like it's trying to be a Stratocaster, it looks like it's trying to be a Les Paul, it's probably a piece of crap. You might have just walked past the best guitar you might have ever played in your life just because of the name on the headstock, because that's just how things used to be. We didn't have all this information at our fingertips. So I think that is a consequence of that. I don't look at it like that anymore because obviously I've played enough Gibsons to be like, yeah, these are either really hit or really, really, really miss, and it's a very expensive gamble. And that's part of the reason why I had no problem sight unseen buying the Paul Reed Smith, because I was like, I know what I'm gonna get, and I was not let down at all by that. But yeah, I just find it, I don't know, like the way people kind of like, it's almost like they're trying to prove it to themselves, like justify things to themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, like you were spot on with the car analogy, right? And I mean, it's the same way with everything. Where I mean, like I'm a big coffee nerd too, and people do the same thing where they buy cheapo espresso machines and then mod the shit out of them, and it's like, oh, you spent $1,500 on a new espresso machine, and you could have just bought a $400 Gaggia and like done all the mods and stuff or whatever, and it's a choice, right? Some people are modders and some people pay the luxury not to be modders, like, I guess you did not know about my coffee hobby, clearly.
Who the fuck modifies a coffee machine? That's not made up?
No, that's a real thing. Lots of people mod coffee machines, man.
I have so many questions, but I'm going to save
this. We'll do a whole
podcast
on coffee.
This is something that we're going to have to talk about off stream, because I'm not even interested in the coffee part of this. I'm interested in the modification things because I'm a tinkerer. Okay, right. I like tinkering. I've always worked on my own cars. I've always worked on my own guitars and all that kind of fun stuff. I like messing with stuff. Of all the things to modify, a coffee machine would have been like on the ground. Yeah, as far as like what I would have thought.
There's a whole world to peel back and look at, man. But my point being, right? Some people are tinkerers and are cool with doing that kind of stuff, and some people aren't. And some people pay for the luxury to never tinker, right?
Yes, or some people buy the Porsche and then they still modify the hell out of it because they're
Right.
just
Yeah.
never going to
Right.
be happy.
Right. So that's a tinkerer with a big wallet, you know. But my point being, I think it's fine to have either attitude, and I don't know. It's human nature to be a dick to the opposite one that you aren't, right? But you know, at the end of the day, we're all trying to get the same goal, which is just a nice sounding guitar that you like to play.
Dave, I I desperately want to buy a coffee machine and film myself modifying it.
All right, I'll point you in a direction.
I can't drink coffee.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll find some decent decaf for you, and we can mod an espresso machine to make you great decaf espresso.
Okay. Oh my God. That is just all right. Yeah. I got. Do you have anything else that you'd like to add after that? Because my mind is still just trying to process the thought of modifying a coffee machine here. I'm at a loss.
I just want to throw it out. I'm not a coffee machine modder. I'm just aware that they exist. You know.
I don't think that's gonna help your cause at this point.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. You know, but yeah, it's whatever.
All right. Well, if you got nothing else, Dave, I mean, I think that's a great place for us to end this. Like I said, you guys, we do have these two guitars. It's really cool that we have different versions of them. So if you guys have any suggestions, anything like that, for us to do a potential demo together with, or any kind of challenge that you would like us to partake in, because I want to do more music stuff. It just seems like something that should go along with the guitar channel. It shouldn't just be all stupid gear reviews. You guys know what I'm going to say 99% of the time anyways at this point, I think. You know what I mean? So, other than that, Dave, you got anything?
I got nothing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into this shit show of a podcast. I realize it's going to be chopped up. Cameras are cameras. Things are things. They will get worked out one day at some point. So thank you for listening. We'll see you tomorrow where we will compare to the high-end guitars. And I'm sure somebody will come in and tell me that, why would you do that? Because you could just have a Harley Benton that could do everything that the McCarty and the Les Paul can do. But I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm going to have my fun doing it. So until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day.